All aboard!
Silent mode on the phones.
Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Yes, the Chicago Junction, being the radio program that is everything about railroading. And here is our boss, the head of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network, as well as to be the chief electrical engineer, Mr. John DeVita.
Well, thank you very much, Brian. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Chicago Junction from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Monday, May the 16th, the year 2016. Today the panel will be talking about railroads and model railroads. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Mr. Brian.
Thank you there, Jack. I want to thank you all. My name is Brian Valou. I'm your host, your announcer. And here is our host with the most, Mr. Jack Red Ryan.
Hey, man, I can leave if you like.
Okay.
I'm like the appendix.
Too many times.
I'm like the appendix anyway here. Yeah, listen, I might add, from the baseball capital of the world, Chicago, Illinois, they're both idle today, so we can have our show. We can tear ourselves away from the tavern or the TV or here. And no, I'm so glad you folks are here to listen with us. You know, I've been listening to our recordings lately, and I guess this happens to everyone. You listen to your own voice and you sound terrible because I guess to yourself you sound much deeper voiced. Or how would you think? Anybody got any ideas about that?
Hey, I know I sound like crap. That's why none of the women go for me.
And we look much fatter on television, too.
Well, thank God we're on radio.
The old comment about a face made for radio?
And a voice for television.
Yes.
That's me. Okay, to my right I have Kevin Barry. Right?
Good evening. I'm Kevin Barry, lifelong Lionel collector and operator, retired Chicago police sergeant, and member and director with the Chicagoland Lionel Railroad Club.
And active with the Scouts, right?
Active with the Scouts.
How long are you active with the Scouts? Since you were a kid, or?
Well, I have 31 years service that I can count that I appeared on a charter someplace. Mm-hmm. Now, I went into Scouts when I was 7, so I lost 28 years somewhere along the line, probably from between the time that I went into college and the time I went back in when my son was a Cub Scout.
No leave of absence or anything?
Unpaid leave.
Does it count to your pension? Okay.
We won't talk about that.
Next up, Dave Darushka.
Volunteers don't get pensions.
David Darushka.
David Darushka. Yes, retired locomotive engineer. Last stop was Metra. And currently I am a board member of the Blackhawk chapter of the National Railway Historical Society. I am the keeper of the flame on our Facebook page, Chicago Junction, and I also have a blog online called Player with Railroads, which is a history blog about railroads in Chicago.
Okay, and you, one time you attended IIT, right?
Oh yes, I attended IIT. I went to an engineering college and I became a locomotive engineer.
Different kind of engineer, huh?
Yeah, different kind, right.
Boop, boop. I remember in the Pride of the Yankees, the Lou Gehrig story, his mother kept saying, "I want you to be like Uncle Otto. He was an engineer." I used to go, "Doot, doot." Where'd he go, Penn Central or what? Oh, well. That's what killed vaudeville, gang. Next up,
God.
Brian.
Yeah, Brian Valou. I'm retired Navy, railroad locomotive engineer and conductor for CNW, UP, and Metra. And I do Operation Lifesaver. And model railroader, Lionel. I played from Z to G and messed with live steam. Now.
Brass polisher?
Yes.
Don't cast any aspersions. I saw Brian's work on the Leviathan, and
I passed his scrutiny.
It was shiny.
I almost had to get a set of a welder's faceplate. It was so much of a reflection.
Just for the folks know, what is Operation Lifesaver?
Operation Lifesaver is actually like a public safety awareness program that we will go to schools, talk with driver's ed classes, civic, anything, talking about safety, railroad grade crossing safety, with the problems with it, and keep kids safe and such, trespassing, and I have 100 people in front of me, and if I save one of them, I've done my job. We were talking about the Boy Scouts. One of the things the Boy Scouts do is railroading merit badge, and one of the sections of it deals with Operation Lifesaver. And I will be attending down in the with the Chicagoland Lionel Club. They're doing their show on merit badge get together on Saturday, and I'll be there, and I'll be educating the Scouts in Operation Lifesaver.
Let's see. I think I had railroading, landscape gardening, cooking, canoeing, swimming. What else? Needlepoint? Was there a needle? No, that wasn't the one. That was a different organization.
Basket weaving, Indian
The
lore.
brownies.
To me, the toughest one, like life-saving.
Yes.
Were you an Eagle?
No, I had 12 merit badges. I was
Star?
nine. I was life.
Yeah.
I was 9 short of Eagle.
Yeah, but that is. We had an Explorer advisor. Bill Boyd was his name. He was a salesman for R.H. Donnelly, which is Yellow Pages. Remember?
I remember him quite well.
Well, anyway, this guy, I swear he was a dolphin in a person's body. The way this guy could swim, and he would if he counseled you for life saving, you're gonna work, But he could amazing the things he could do in the water. Anywho,
Like Mr. Limpet, huh?
We had the opportunity. My family and I had the opportunity. I want to say 20 years ago now, to do the Union Pacific trip from Chicago up to Clinton, Iowa, and they did a Operation Lifesaver presentation on it. And the gentleman that did it had a really simple but impressive display chart, and it showed a railroad engine at the top, a car in the middle, and a soda pop can at the bottom. And it was to show the proportional difference in weight between an empty soda pop can and a car and a train engine.
whoa, that's pretty doggone graphic.
And what people don't realize is that when a piece of rail equipment is moving at speed, whether it's 60 miles an hour for a passenger train or 30 or 35 for a freight, it creates a slipstream around it, just like an aircraft in flight. And I can remember 3 or 4 incidents where kids were either on the tracks or crowding the tracks, and the train went by. The train did not hit them initially, but they got caught in the slipstream and got sucked right into the side of the train. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I can believe that.
And with the kids with the earphones, they don't hear the train can literally be right next to them sounding a horn, and they won't hear it.
Well, up to yesterday, that was me. I'm not making levity of any of that. But,
poor topic for jest.
Yeah.
No, well, sometimes it's the way to get through on some things. But, yeah, it's a public awareness program. You'd be surprised. I mean, by doing this program started in 1972. It was started by a brakeman for the Union Pacific in Idaho. And he and some of his friends put it together because of all the problems they were having. And they actually started having reductions. in the areas. And it's been an ongoing thing, and we've had a 60% reduction in grade crossing accidents since 1974. We're having problems with trespassing now, more and more because of the, like you're saying, the headphones. But that was going back even with the Walkmans. I know if some of our listeners go to museums, they'll see what they're talking about.
The Smithsonian?
Yeah.
Almost.
But, walking around with that and the just texting with the phones. They just get involved with so much doing it, they'll just...
Yeah, or just being on a cell phone walking somewhere, like you're down the street, you see that walking right into traffic, or
Yeah.
Metro's just started a program, internal program for all their employees regarding suicides. How to notice people who are standing close to the tracks that appear to be suicidal, and I know from experience that you can tell when people are standing close to the tracks. You might go by them once or twice. They're sitting there thinking about it. Or they may be there one day, disappear, come back the next day, do this 2 or 3 days, and then they're going to jump in front of the train eventually. So Metro's, there's a high ratio of suicides in Illinois, and the railroads in particular. People just think that the railroad's a great place to end it all, not thinking about the kind of trauma they induce on the engineer.
Right, well...
Or in the case of freight, it's the engineer and the conductor.
I had a relative, or a close relative, was a suicide. And you often wonder, like I heard, if they could just get through that one day, maybe, who knows?
Well, it's like, even people at grade crossings. There's many a time when we're talking a full-blown flashing lights, bells ringing, crossing gates down. A train is coming. And there will be somebody that'll drive around that gate.
Yeah.
Because
or walk
they
around.
can't, or walk around it, but and think they can get across. They might do it 1 or 2 times. Third time,
Tag, you're dead.
There's no going back after that, isn't there?
and I mean, when you're talking the commuter trains that Metro runs, if you can't wait 30 seconds,
Right.
and then
I waited for a train coming here today.
It's a choice between 30 seconds or eternity, isn't it? That's what it comes down to.
Well,
Some
people are gamblers.
Yeah. I mean, you when you're talking the freight trains, okay, they're not going as fast, but they're doing
Fast enough.
They're doing 40 to 55 miles an hour, and so 2 minutes, boom, you got to wait.
Yeah. So if it's 2 hours, I mean...
But you sit there and watch that train and you try to stop it. Well, at 50 mile an hour, one of them coal trains with 135, 110-ton hoppers on them, I mean, you're talking way over 18,000 tons. And it takes a mile to stop. 18 football fields.
Okay.
Back in the early 90s.
As if the train doesn't derail.
Yeah. I rode an Operation Lifesaver law enforcement train. The commander had a meeting to go to, and he asked me as one of his sergeants to go. And they had a camera rigged on the nose of the freight engine that was pulling a couple of passenger cars. And they had cameras in all the cars. And I swear I saw 4 separate drivers at 4 separate grade crossings jump the gate. What they didn't know is that there were rail police and municipal police shadowing the train, and everyone that jumped the gates was cited for their driving skills. But,
Well, Dave will tell you, as well as I can, how many near misses have come into our life?
A couple a day, at least. That's the low end. Most of it depends too. Like when we work for Metro Electric, most of the electric line is above grade, so you don't really deal with a lot of traffic. But the South Chicago branch and the Blue Island branch are terrible. It's 30-mile-an-hour speed limit, so you're not running at high speeds. But people are totally oblivious to the trains, absolutely oblivious.
A good example where a lot of wrecks are, especially at night, I know because I've relieved the engineer enough, is one of our station crossings is on a curve, the beginning of a curve, with gates, and we have to stop there because actually we have a little red light that'll stop us and goes green, and we can take off. Train's not even doing 10 miles an hour, and we'll hit a car because they decide to run around the gate.
And people will crowd a grade crossing. They think the white line on the pavement was a precision bombing run by pigeons. I handled an accident, and this is going back to when I was a patrolman, so it's got to be over 25 years ago. The guy had a brand new Buick Park Lane, and he crowded the grade crossing at 1100 East 103rd Street, and he got just close enough for the lower front end of the train to rip the bumper off his Park Lane. And he was despondent when I told him, not only is the railroad not going to pay for your car, but you're going to have to pay for the damage to the engine. He says, what do you mean? He hit me. I says, once those gates go down, they own the grade crossing.
Right of way.
Yeah.
They had a
Well, yes, legally it's the right of way, but in reality they own the grade crossing once the gates go down.
somebody posted a picture online of a steel coil car where the coil had unraveled, and the end of the steel was sticking out way beyond the fall point, which is the width of the car. You know, it was at least another 7 or 8 feet beyond. So if you're standing close to a crossing like that, you're waiting on the pedestrian and you're standing on the other side of the pedestrian gate, you're going to get sliced up. Slice and dice. I mean, there's all kinds of steel lading that hangs off these cars, strapping, lumber.
Ladders.
Yeah, just an incredible amount of, and people don't realize. They think, oh, yeah.
Well, in addition to what we were saying, Brian and Dave and Kevin, about this Operation Lifesaver and that sort of thing, we had a day's in-service training on the job for hazmat training, hazardous materials, and all those placards. When you start reading what's on them, you want to stay back away from that train when it's going by. I mean, what do we got in there, right?
Yeah, for entertainment, I used to read the hazmat book that they gave us. See a car go by, go, hey, what was that? Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's something to cure insomnia, huh?
Oh, yeah.
1982, the police department came out with their first hazmat special order.
Is it?
And I went over and I talked to the yard master at the Norfolk and Western yard at 103rd and Stony Island. It's Norfolk Southern now. But he said every week something in each of the 8 hazmat categories that existed at that time, including radioactive materials, came into his yard. And now they've got a 9th hazmat placard that just says flammable.
What's it called?
Flammable.
What does that mean?
It means that it's a mixed load of drums or cartons, but it'll burn.
Oh, okay.
And they have a catch-all that's dangerous.
One of these pens will work.
But I used to carry a little orange book in the car, and we're driving down the interstate going to Disney, and my daughter grabs the book and she says, "Dad, look at that truck next to us." And I look over, and it's Class 3, Class 4, Class 5, and I looked at my wife and says, "We're getting out of here," and kicked it up about 20 miles an hour over the limit. I didn't want to be anywhere near that truck because Class 4 is the stuff that burns, but you can't put water on it. Aluminum, titanium, magnesium. The fireman's nightmare.
I remember we showed one film of collisions somewhere downstate. You remember this one, Kevin? It was like it blew up again, and it launched one of the cars like a mile away. Just from the
I think we talked about it briefly last month.
I think it
was a Lindy compressed gas car.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, but I mean, this is like a missile.
Oh yeah, yeah. it blew the Ford chassis fire engine. It was a pumper. It tumbled it close to a half mile back from the point of the explosion. And all they ever found of the 5-man company were the metal D-rings and buckles on their turnout jackets. Everything else was incinerated to dust. And, you know, I think we need to talk about something a little more
let's get on
pleasant.
to a happy note.
So anyway,
Brian, tell us what's going on at the railroad days in Franklin Park.
Hey, that's my job. Brian, tell us what's going on at the railroad days.
just remember, look, listen, and live.
See,
This is living.
See tracks, think train.
Okay.
That's the new one. Trying to get it.
See tracks, think train.
Yep.
Wabbit twax, twain twax, right?
Yes.
whatever makes you remember.
Okay. Okay, Franklin Park Railroad Days we know is coming up on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of June.
Yeah, it runs the 9th through the 12th,
Okay.
but the train viewing days are the 11th.
Yeah, the train viewing do. And Metra is actually bringing in a guest locomotive to help put on display. They're going to have an honest-to-God nickel plate Berkshire, number 765.
Road behind that one.
And she will be on display. She will be hot. They're going to store her at the Western Avenue yards, the old Milwaukee coach yards, because she's going to be used on an excursion on the 12th. She's going to run. The first place they pick up passengers will be 7 in the morning at the North Glenview station off of Will Road. And then an hour later, they're going to pick up their second passenger stop at Fox Lake. So knowing the distance, that means she's going to do more than 35, 40 mile an hour. And then she's going up to Janesville. Spend an hour and a half up there, and then they're going to make their way back. And so if anybody wants to see a real old-fashioned steam locomotive really do her stuff, get out along the old Milwaukee line that the Canadian Pacific own and Metro uses, and watch that train come by. To paraphrase a statement from the Apocalypse Now, I love the smell of bituminous in the morning.
They are selling seats, by the way.
Yes, they are. They've got 4 dome cars.
Yep.
They've got
Which will cost you between $149 and $349.
if you want a dome seat, that's $349.
Right.
First class seating is $249. Deluxe coach, that's no windows open, strictly air conditioned, and that's 149. No, that's 199.
No, it's 149.
And then the regular coach is 149.
No, the regular coach is 119.
119?
Yeah.
Okay.
I checked it out on the line this morning. I did not buy a ticket, by the way. That's my anniversary, and I don't think my wife would take too kindly to me saying, "Hey, honey, we're going on a train trip."
Don't say never take you anywhere.
Yeah, we're going to do a day trip to Janesville.
Yeah, right. We'll have an hour and a half up there. We can do all kinds of exciting stuff.
But yeah, 20-car train.
Oh,
Actually, be at least 22 cars.
Now, is that the same set of tracks that would ultimately wind up in Sturtevant?
No.
Different set.
Well, it is the same set until you get to Roundout. And then crosses over and goes up the Fox Lake line.
Okay.
That's where they switch tracks. And I've seen it done. That's where the Metro trains go. They'll go up to Roundout, and then they cross over, and then they take the spur up, and they go to Fox Lake. And that's the end of the line. From beyond that is the old Wisconsin and Calumet line, now run by Wisconsin and Southern.
Okay.
And that's where their line goes up to Janesville and up to Madison, Wisconsin.
yeah, the people involved in this whole thing, of course, Metra, the city of Franklin Park, the Wisconsin Southern Railroad, the Iowa Pacific. I'm not sure what their role in this is. The IHB and the NS are also providing transit for the equipment. And, of course, the Fort Wayne Historical Society that owns the locomotive.
Iowa Pacific owns the dome cars.
Okay.
It sounded like such a great trip to the family till you got the prices.
Well, it's true, but that's what they got to pay for insurance.
Oh, I understand. Hey, listen, I understand. We can watch the thing. We can.
Yes, you can.
And you can't call Granger and get repair parts for a steam engine.
Well,
If you can't make that day, you can always go to the Kane County Railroadiana and Model Train Show and Sale. That's Sunday, June the 12th at the Kane County Fairgrounds for a much more reasonable price of $6. Children under 12 free. And that's, I'm not sure. From 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
no domes.
Probably model domes. It's Railroadiana, all kinds of railroad tchotchke.
What
Yeah.
did that mean?
Huh?
Railroadiana.
It's
Railroadiana.
anything. that
Oh,
has-
Deanna. My wife's
Deanna.
name is Deanna. I thought you were-
Anything that has to do with railroading. Could be
I'll get you. Okay, yeah.
tickets.
I get you.
If your thing is
Timetables.
if,
I
if your
understand
thing
now.
is padlocks or buttons or
Spikes from
railroad
the old railroad
police
spikes and
badges,
stuff, right?
that's the kind of stuff that shows up there.
Anything and everything. The show has really diminished over the years, mostly due to the internet. A lot of people sell on the internet now. They don't pack up their stuff and drive somewhere and set it up and then break
Take
it
it away
down.
home with them.
I mean, you look at the time. It's from 10 to 3. It's like not a lot of time.
No.
That's like
Was it
5
5
hours.
hours?
5
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're setting up for an hour and a half or two.
Well, you get there early.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, better. And then there's a couple of more hours on the end. So, well, sounds interesting.
There'll probably be 2 or 3 people with tables of nothing but black and white and color photographs.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that love that.
Well, sure.
May the 21st, other things going on. Homewood Rail Fest at the Homewood Flossmoor Park District Auditorium, 2010 Chestnut Road. And I see why you guys didn't get called, because the Blackhawk chapter is going to be there.
That's because they're out of the playoffs, right?
Yeah, no, that's a chapter I'm a board member
I
of.
couldn't resist that one.
Silly boy. May 21 and 22, the Railway Post Office Days at the Illinois Railway Museum. See how railroads played a major. They said paid. It should be played a major part in the handling of the U.S. mail. June 5th is a Great Midwest Train Show at the DuPage County Fairgrounds, 9:30 to 3 p.m. Let's see. June 11th, the same day as the Franklin Park Railroad Days, is Pullman Day at the Illinois Railway Museum, commemorating Chicago Pullman Company by operating Pullman-built heritage pieces of equipment. And June 18th, the Illinois Railway Museum Chicago Day, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the last streetcar operation in Chicago. Where's Mr. Schmolin when you need him?
Wentworth, was it? Wentworth Avenue? Wentworth Avenue?
I'm not sure what the last streetcar was.
1962?
Schmolin would know,
I think it was 62.
but he's not here.
Yeah.
June 18th and 19th, Old Canal Days in Lockport. The restored Wabash Railroad Simerton Depot will be open from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And June 19th, Father's Day at the Illinois Railway Museum. And then June 23rd through 26th, annual Galesburg Railroad Days.
Oh, yes. We talked to them ways back there. Didn't we?
You can actually get to the Galesburg Railroad Days on Amtrak.
Mhm.
They have 2 trains that run down in the morning and 2 trains that come back in the afternoon. They're not dedicated trains. One of them, I think, is part of the Southwest Flyer. But you can do it because my wife and I did it 5 or 6 years ago. And it's a pleasant trip.
Galesburg is what, southwest Illinois?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have an old Swift meatpacking plant there from back when they used to move a lot of cattle, and it's been converted to a restaurant, and you can get some really good meals there.
And on that happy note, getting a meal, it's time for us to take a break. Go.
You're listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, May 16th, the year 2016. And this is WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois. And now, back to Chicago Junction and our panel.
We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
Okay, we're back.
Okay.
Where were we, gang? Having a meal down in Galesburg.
Did you talk about the cancellation of National Train Day last month?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to put a propaganda move on that and saying that it's not going to be a one-day event. It's going to be a all summer long program of events now.
No, it's part of the cost-cutting measures that Amtrak is doing, and they're trying to disguise it.
Propaganda.
Staying with Amtrak, they're losing their regulatory powers. Amtrak, up until this point, has been able to dictate to the freight railroads, or at least complain to the FRA about the interference of freight trains with Amtrak trains and how it affects the schedule. Congress, in its infinite wisdom, has decided that Amtrak is a profit-making corporation. And
Really?
oh yeah, and they hold them to certain things that they will never achieve given today's United railroads in the United States, because Amtrak is essentially a tenant on 99% of the tracks they operate on. So the higher court overturned a lower court ruling that upheld that, saying that Amtrak can no longer tell the freight railroads what they can do with their tracks. This was brought about. This was brought about by the Association of American Railroads. I always find it ironic that the railroads wanted to get out of the passenger business, so they invented a quasi-public corporation called Amtrak to run the trains, and now they're crying about the the passenger trains messing up their freight schedules.
Now, how long has Amtrak been around now?
Since the 80s.
No, earlier than that.
1971.
Oh, really?
Now, what does it
Nixon
stand
signed
for?
it into law.
Is that a
Yeah, 1971. May 1st, 1971.
now? Is that an anagram for something? Amtrak, or is
American Tracks.
that what it is?
Yep.
Wow.
Almost makes it track. Depending on what train you ride on. So I've used the Empire, the train that runs to New York. What's that one? That runs
Twilight Limited.
No, there's a Chicago to Buffalo to New York.
Twilight Limited.
Is it? No, they got a different name for it. Anyways,
The 20th century.
it's not the 20th century. No, it's not the 20th.
No, we have the 21st century now.
Anyways, yeah, I've ridden that train, and your guess is as good as anybody's what time it makes it to the destination.
Yeah.
It runs over two separate railroads, the CSX being one, and the CSX is notorious for holding up Amtrak trains.
Holding him up like Butch Cassidy. you mean?
Yeah, like Butch Cassidy.
Almost.
Actually, they do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, CSX does better than Jesse James and Butch Cassidy.
My son took the train home once from college. He went to college at Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. And he was due in at 7:30 on a Sunday morning. I said, great. We'll pick you up, we'll go to breakfast, and then I got to go to work. He was 3.5 hours late getting in. Matter of fact, I had my wife and daughters came down in a separate vehicle. I had to peel off and go to work without having the option of having breakfast. And she and the girls went to breakfast and then picked him up and then had to take him someplace to get something to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad. He says first they got caught by a bridge that had been swung out to let a barge get through. Then they got stuck behind two freight trains. He said, I'll walk home from Washington before I'll take the train again.
Now, what were they coming about 11 o'clock in the morning then, or something?
It was between 10:30 and 11
Yeah,
o'clock in the
yeah.
morning.
That's pretty good. 3 hours. Not
he
bad
said
at
he-
all.
Hey, on the same day?
Oh, it is.
The FRA is preparing to rule on the two-man crew issue.
What's the FRA, just for people like myself?
Federal Railroad. Administration.
Okay.
Yeah, they are basically the regulatory agency that oversees the railroads. They are the rule makers. And a number of railroads have been agitating to drop the conductor off of freight trains and switch to an engineer-only train. So the FRA is in the process, has been in the process of writing up rules for that. And essentially the majority of the trains are going to remain two-man crew trains, but the railroads can petition the FRA for one-man operations, and they have to meet certain parameters that the FRA sets that will allow them to do that. And I received an email today from Mr. Binky. You remember Mr. Binky, don't you? Sean Bickerton, saying that I think May the 17th is the end of comments. So if people wanted to make comments, railroaders want to make comments regarding two-man crews, they could still do that. So the big concern is what happened up in Canada with the oil train that ran away and obliterated that small village. That was a one-man crew operation, and the engineer did not tie on a sufficient number of handbrakes onto the equipment. And then other factors involved, such as the fire department shutting down the locomotives, removing the supply of air for the air brakes. The train bled off and was parked on a hill. And, of course, gravity took over and it rolled away.
So would this just be cost cutting? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's it basically. The railroads want to get rid of employees.
But the thing is, no, I won't talk about it.
They're not going to save enough on what they'd pay the employees for what they're going to pay on one claim.
Well, what's going to happen is they're going to have what they call utility men driving around in cars available at certain points. So if the train goes into emergency, this utility man has to go drive out there, find the train, and resolve the problem.
That sounds brilliant.
Oh, it's stupid. But, hey, the railroads think that they know what they're doing.
And it's always people who don't know. They know so much who don't know anything. Am I right?
Well, I've always felt that, the worst thing that ever happened to the railroad was they let the bean counters take over. There are no railroad men anymore in management for the most part. It's only people who are accountants and bean counters.
The military, they used to say, as you went up in the ranks, and no offense, Brian, you learned more and more about less and less until you knew everything about nothing, and then they promoted you again.
It's the Peter principle.
Well, Brian,
they promote you to your highest level of incompetence.
But what was your rank, chief petty officer? Or?
Yeah.
Well, that's what, like a sergeant or?
Oh no.
Master sergeant?
Well, way above sergeant.
I was equivalent to a gunny sergeant in the Marine Corps.
But like
E7.
He was a non-commissioned officer, though, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
I was a non-commissioned officer.
Hey, let's talk about trains.
Okay. How about C-Train?
How about these trains?
Okay, we got we have a good example. Since I was an old goat,
What does that mean?
we were known as goats, old goats. We the CPO mess was known as the goat locker. Remember the Navy's goat is the mess.
Yeah, I remember that.
Look like goat, smell like goat.
Like women from oat country. But we have a yard goat here. I believe Western Maryland. Isn't that an EMD locomotive?
It's an EMD NW2. They were built between February 1939 and December 1949. The particular model in front of you portrays the Western Maryland with the cab number of 8501. They were a very versatile yard engine. There were 1,145 were produced, 1,121 in the U.S., 24 were exported to Canada. Starting in 1948, they were manufactured at EMD's plant number 3 in Cleveland, Ohio. And they were all over the place. I just jotted a couple of notes down. The Baltimore and Ohio had 49 of them. The B&O CT, which is the Baltimore and Ohio Chicago terminal, which used to be over in 79th and Bell, had 3. The C&O had 4. The Chicago Great Western had 17. The Chicago Burlington and Quincy had 46. The Milwaukee Road had 8. The Rock Island had 10. The EJ&E had 48. The Grand Trunk Western had 24. The Illinois Central had 7. And the the Indiana Harbor Belt had 78. Now, this is only about a quarter of the listing of the companies that had them. They were, they were all over the place.
No, yard engine, you mean, is that for transfer or what?
Yeah.
Yeah, they did transfers,
Switching.
yards, delivering to local industries and such.
Oh, okay. I'm just,
Yeah.
It's a yard engine as opposed to a road engine.
If they're
Although
if
they
they're
could
yeah.
put 1 or 2 of them together if they had to. For
if they're equipped
heavy
with
work.
MU. Not
Yeah.
all of them were equipped with MU connections,
And
which is multiple unit. There's a cable that you can hook locomotives up with called an MU cable, multiple unit, and it carries all the control signals necessary for operating the unit from a single control stand. So we don't have any MU connections on this one.
No, they were also, some of them were configured as CAF units, which meant they didn't have a control cab, so they would have to be hooked up with a multiple unit cable. And the article that I read said there were also a cow calf. There were 2 cow calf sets that were built and delivered. Now, I've never seen a photograph of a cow and double calf, but amongst my train engines, I do have a cow and calf in Chicago Northwestern markings. This particular engine was made by Lionel in 1989. And Western Maryland was eventually one of the roads that merged into the chassis and then became part of CSX. I think there were 13 roads altogether that merged to become CSX, but I'd have to go home and count the logos on my T-shirt.
well, we'll wait till next month.
I always get a kick out of the Indiana Harbor Belt where they couple up about 6 of those switch engines and stick about 150 cars on them, and they'd be struggling mightily to get up a slight grade.
So would that be something we see when you do see 2 locomotives together occasionally? That would be an operation like that. I mean, you do see them once in a while.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're MU'd together.
Mm-hmm.
That's why, like, sometimes you see them a couple together back to back, so that way basically you have a cab on each end that you can see out of.
Yeah, Metro does that.
When you run around the cab.
Right, it's nice to have the cab. This you've got the long hood of the switch engine, and that contains the diesel engine and all the equipment that's necessary, cooling equipment, electrical equipment, and then the cab end is just a flat end with a platform and ladder on it, and you have much better visibility operating cab end first, which is actually the back end of the locomotive. That's the rear. The front end is considered the very front of the long hood.
Well, yeah, sounds logical to me.
It's easier to see out of the windows than down the nose.
Yeah.
The front end is what everybody thinks of as the nose on the switcher.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, well, even when the first hood units came out for the road freight engines, either by Alco or Baldwin, and then finally EMD. A lot of them used long hood forward as the front of the locomotive, and everybody's asking why. It's so much easier to see. Well, all the engineers were steam locomotive engineers, so looking down the front of the diesel was nothing.
Perfectly normal for them.
Yeah.
And there's also the safety factor. You've got a lot more in front of you if you get into a collision.
For protection back there.
Yeah. Now, that's something I never thought about before. the diesels are, like up front, like an airplane would be controlled. Yeah. I mean, I know I saw it, but never formulated it quite that way. See, you learn something every day, folks. You always learn something from our show. At least I do.
It is too bad that our folks cannot see when we bring in these.
Hey, I'll post a picture on our Facebook page.
Please do.
Yeah.
When we talk about a calf, we're not talking about the cut down fuel slugs
Sluggo.
that you see occasionally behind the Indiana Harbor Belt.
It's a calf has to be attached to its mama.
Well, a calf has everything but the operating cab. It's just the diesel engine and everything.
It's not eld enough.
Well, the slug I'm talking about has only about half of the hood height.
It's got the weight.
Yeah.
Weight and traction motors. It basically takes power from the single diesel engine of the powered locomotive and splits the electrical between the locomotive itself and the slug.
So that way they could lug all the traffic around and deliveries.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks ago there was one parked on 100th Street just west of the river, over where the coal peat place used to be, which is now a ghost town, because there's nothing left over there. Only thing left on that siding over there is tracks and tracks and tracks of empty coal cars. And waiting for assignment someplace else.
Which won't happen. Coal traffic is down. Thanks to natural gas.
We're going to put those coal miners out of business, remember?
They are.
The coal companies do.
I can remember when the tracks between 100th Street and 104th Street east of Torrance Avenue were nothing but boxcars just sitting there. And somebody told me it was doctors were buying boxcars and leasing them to the railroads, and then when the need for the boxcars fell off, the doctors had to pay to have them stored because they didn't want to have the boxcars decommissioned and cut up for scrap.
It's like shooting dice, isn't it? Boxcars isn't a good thing.
A lot of the railroads now are storing cars. Some of the tourist railroads have taken on storage of cars that are
To
not
help to
currently in
generate
use.
revenue for their properties.
Right.
Monticello was doing that with the NS.
Yeah, Monticello. That's another story there.
Funny you mentioned these boxcars as freight. My mother one summer, for about 5 or 6 weeks, she had a job. Some freight bureau, and they were trying to track what happened to certain, where these by the number where are they, and she said she found herself would be going over to the A&P in Hilo, walking past the tracks at 67th and Bell there. She'd be looking at the numbers. She found herself, and someone she worked with, there was one they were looking for, and he was either driving by them. He found it when he was driving by railroad. So
There was a big railroad sighting on the south side of 119th Street between Racine, between Morgan and Ashland. And there were boxcars sitting up in there. This is back in the 80s. And what was happening is somebody had gotten in there and was respraying all the boxcars and putting new ownership registrations on the side of the boxcars and selling them.
like a cattle rustler, huh? Really, that's about the same.
In effect, yes.
Yeah.
And they think somewhere in the vicinity of 200 cars, I think, disappeared because they went in there for, in effect, administrative storage.
Yeah.
And nobody was checking on them, and so somebody got slick and sprayed them and re-stenciled them and sold them.
Better than the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah. I work with a conductor at the Northwestern who was a scrap dealer. And he used to have the Northwestern repair his cars for him. They finally caught on to that one.
That's pretty good.
Hey, what's that other train here? That odd-looking train.
2 other trains. Or 2 other pieces.
Well, okay.
Oh, I see the other one.
Yeah. Well, we had talked about the Northwestern and the electric lines in the Chicago area. and the North Shore, the old Chicago, Milwaukee, and North Shore, Milwaukee. And this is actually a train that ran on it. This was one of the electroliners that was made in 1941 by the St. Louis Car Company and ran the traffic between Milwaukee and Chicago, going down to the loop. And what I have in front of you, you're looking at, is actually what happens when you sell it. This is a used electroliner, and it was, with the paint scheme it has now, it is what is called a Liberty liner. And when they were finished on the, when the North Shore shut down, the Red Arrow lines in Philadelphia purchased them to run on their high-speed line they have there called the Norristown High-Speed Line. And these ran with the bullet cars that they had designed for fast operation that went from Norristown to 69th Street Terminal. And it basically was a high-speed line. And so they purchased the electroliner sets because they were small enough that would make the tight curves at the 69th Street facility. And
Yeah, they were designed for street operation in Milwaukee.
right. And the the Red Arrow lines had all high platforms. So what they did, you could see the modifications they made by taking out the stairwells and such, and made it straightly for third rail operation and high platforms.
It's a beautiful train, but having seen the electroliner that they have up at Union, given my druthers, I wish it had stayed in the original paint
Well, that's
job.
what you get for staying in the Midwest. I'm an East Coaster, so I happen to like this. And the nice thing is, both of these beauties, 801, 802, and 803, 804, have been saved.
That's a miracle.
And one is, as you saw, up at IRM, being restored to full bright colors again, I understand.
Yeah.
And one of the other Liberty liners is sitting in Rock Furnace, Pennsylvania, outside of Arizona, at the Trolley Museum there.
Operable?
Yes.
Ooh.
They do have it operable. It does need a new coat of paint,
Yeah.
but they actually put trolley poles on it.
Ah.
It is equipped with trolley poles. In fact, they had a wonderful lineup of a car built in 1907. They had the Liberty liner there, and they had one of their newest acquisitions, a 1981 Siemens light rail car from San Diego, is now in a museum. One of three that went to museums.
Hard to believe, 1981, antiquated equipment.
And I remember because I went to San Diego and was running it like 6 months after the line opened. Going down from downtown to the Navy base in good old San Ysidro, so I can go to Tijuana.
Tijuana.
But yeah, so it's nice. It's nice that
They weren't piping in the Kingston Trio over the.
No.
He went to Tijuana for some marijuana.
Medical, of course, right? Medical use.
Not back then.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Yes.
yeah, we claim.
Yes, back then it was medicinal. Took care of all your stress woes.
Anyway. And you guys make me think all about, it's maybe nostalgia is maybe not such a good thing all the time because you try to remember the better parts, but I do think we were better off when we had the streetcar lines in the city, and they were very.
Well, yeah. Let's face it. Our grandparents and great grandparents, they were green.
What do you mean?
Well, if you took the electric street trolley or the electric trolley bus, you weren't burning gasoline or diesel.
Oh, that green. Okay, right. Yeah, that's true. It had to be done somewhere, but nonetheless, they were dependable. Oh, they were I just wonder what happened because something like 20-some cities in North America still have them. Toronto being one. I know we were there.
There's a resurgence and there's a new streetcar line in Kansas City.
Yeah.
You have
Milwaukee's
Seattle,
going to get one.
Portland's got it. San Jose. Philadelphia keeps trying to keep it, but SEMTA keeps trying to pave it over.
Who's that?
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
The transit
But
agency.
Pittsburgh's doing fine. New Jersey Transit up in Newark expanded their lines.
Yeah.
Before we run out of time, Brian, can you tell us about this beautiful handcar you brought in G gauge?
Well, it's a handcar, and actually it's a tribute. It is made by Lionel. And
Who are those guys on there?
Mickey Mouse and Goofy. And
you?
it could be you could say it's a tribute to the Mickey Mouse handcar that Lionel made in 1934. And legend has it that it helped save Lionel from bankruptcy. Well, it's not totally true, partially true, because the car sold for $1 with track, and they got $350,000 in ready-need money for that from that Christmas.
Yeah.
And yeah,
How much did Disney get?
Oh, you?
He did pretty well himself, huh?
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was one of the first companies to
Yeah.
do major license.
Yeah.
Royalties, yeah. That's right.
Well, you know the quote from Horace Greeley: "When legend conflicts with the truth, print the legend."
Well, that's what it all has.
That's
what
Liberty Valance, isn't it?
Yes, that is
That's
one
one of
of
the times it was quoted.
correctly.
Yeah. The what else did Horace say? Go west, young man.
That's attributed to him as well.
Yeah.
And
Anyway,
This handcar is obviously in G.
Yeah, this is a large scale G gauge. The car will can be seen at the Chicago Botanic Garden in the Monday and Thursday mornings.
now when this moves, do Mickey and Goofy move up and down too?
Oh yes, they do.
Interesting.
That's the raising and lowering of the handbar drives a set of gears to move the car.
Yep.
And it's a very popular piece because they've done it. Lionel has done it for Christmas. They've done it for Halloween. They've brought the Mickey Mouse one back a couple of times. It's just a cute little piece, but you got it has to have generous
but
curves.
it is an actual piece of railroadania because this is how the track workers actually went down the tracks, and usually had a trailer towed behind them.
Prominently shown in The General when Buster Keaton takes off.
Definitely.
Yeah. Makes me think of anyone know what an Irish mail is? Other than Kevin and myself?
Say again.
Irish mail, they call it. Little hand car you'd pump to move. If you stopped, it went backwards. They had sort of the same principle as these. Do you know? Anybody know?
No.
Wait a minute.
It's like a very short, tubular framed
Yeah.
one person
And you stop. it would go
moped,
backwards.
but all the power is from the
From your hand.
crank bar.
No?
It's sort of like a skateboard you sit on, and it's big enough to have a crank.
Yeah. Especially if I'm the crank sitting on it.
Oh, then it's crankier.
No, that just brought it up. See, well, look, go to Wikipedia on that one or something. But
Did anybody see the email that went out with the picture of Thomas's grumpier cousin?
No.
It's got Thomas in full color sitting next to a black and white sketch of one of the German World War II railguns.
By the way, we mentioned Illinois Railway Museum earlier, and is Thomas going to visit us this year? Does anyone know?
Yes, it will.
And you know when?
August.
August? Oh,
The tickets might be sold out already.
they might be, yeah.
I think they went on sale the first of May,
That's the
and
popular.
they usually only last about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, in 2014 we saw Thomas there, and last year we saw him in Detroit, Green Village, Henry Ford's.
Last 2 years we were
Greenfield Village.
Yeah, Greenfield Village. You're right. Yeah.
last 2 years we were lucky enough to catch him down in Nashville, but seeing as my daughter is relocating to St. Louis. We won't see him in Nashville this year, but maybe next year in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. Buy your tickets now.
If they're still available.
Hey, that pretty much brings us to the end, right, Brian?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, we
Let me
did.
say one thing before I throw it back to you. Folks, Jack Ryan, on behalf of Kevin Barry, David Darushka, Brian Valou, myself, and our absent members today, Doug Kenyuk on assignment and Ron Smolden on assignment, I want to say happy rails to you. And John DeVita.
All aboard! Next stop, Chicago Junction.
Join us again next time when we take our Railroad of the Imagination on our continuing journey through the wonderful world of trains. Chicago Junction is a production of the Windy City Hometown Radio Network and can be heard over this station as well as the WindyCityHometown.com, where recordings of all our shows may be heard. Once again, all aboard. This is your announcer, Brian Valou, thanking you for listening.
You have been listening to Chicago Junction on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John DeVita Broadcast Center on Monday, May the 16th, the year 2016. Chicago Junction was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita. Our audio engineer is Mr. James Rohde. And we want to thank radio station manager Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Chiconda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Thursday, May the 12th, the year 2016. Until next time, be safe, and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois.